Morning all, Lee from Fry's Garage here. Hope you're all having a Bonza Australia Day. Perfect weather, couldn't go wrong, and it's a good day to celebrate who we are, what we do. And what I do is fix Aussie cars, Aussie boats, and I bloody love it. All right, so work never ends. So we've got a nice little Ford Falcon in here today with a couple of symptoms, a couple of requests from the customer. Very nice man. So small block Ford. We've got a bit of a noise from the front of the engine, so hopefully that's nothing sinister. We've got to do a health check, tune up, bit of an exhaust modification, and basically just get this thing back up to scratch. It's beautiful for its age. Whoever painted it has done an amazing job. Yeah, all right, so everything wears, especially when you drive it, unfortunately. If you don't use it, you lose it as well. So we'll go to the tuning specs. It's got a lifter tick. We'll work out what's going on there, whether we've got collapsed rockers, whether we've got the wrong grade oil, whether there's too much fuel saturation in the oil to thin it out, whether we've got the wrong preload on the rockers. So we'll go through all that. And if you need to know how to do that, the actual the method to do that, you can go and look at my other videos on that. All right, so generally cluckiness from the front of the engine is always going to be something with bearing or potentially timing chain. But this is at idle. As soon as you get a little bit of rev, it goes away. So I'm going to say, knowing that it's got a new water pump and we don't have any movement on the bait and the bearing itself, I'm going to say that we have a rear bearing, which is what generally disintegrates on alternators, and that's what's giving that clucky, horrible, sinister noise. So we'll go through that. We'll take the belt off. And we'll know with 100% clarity that the noise is gone if we remove it, and we'll know it's the alternator. All right, so let's get into it. I'll stop and start as usual, otherwise these movies are a little bit long in the tooth. I'll keep it basic. I'll try to make everything as clear as possible for you guys to learn, because as you know, method is training starts, but the learning never stops. All right, so I'm here to give you guys a guide. Get your hands on in your sheds, and let's get some experiences and some skills back out there, because the world definitely needs us. All right, so anyway, further ado, let's get into it. Come back soon. Ta-da. Alright guys, back again. So I took the alternator belt off, and that clucky noise that was going on at the front there that I was a little bit worried about is gone. So customer needs a new alternator, nothing sinister going on with the engine, which is great. Now I did notice that this thing is just running really rich, sort of not burning eyes rich. It does have a high duration cam, so it's going to need that extra fuel at idle to keep alive, especially when you put it in drive. Now, the key word there is drive. So this is coupled obviously to a what's a C4 now, or was it FX? C4, not with a massive stall, but I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to show you how adjusting your idle air fuel mixture screws has to be done with the engine or drive in gear, because obviously in gear, the engine is under load at idle, so it's going to want a little bit more fuel to keep the engine alive. Okay, so manual engines, you do your idle air screw adjustments, right? You can do it by ear if you think you're great. You can do it by an RPM gauge if you think you're great. But I like this old girl. This is a vacuum gauge, all right? So when we have a vacuum gauge with the needle, and it comes around to probably being a high duration cam, it's going to be between about 5 and 10, all right? But we don't want flickering. We don't want an oscillating needle, because an oscillating needle means we've got a vacuum leak or an imbalance between ports, all right, due to a leak or a sticky valve or something like that. So what I do is I adjust the air fuel idle screws, all right, for the idle circuit only, because that's what they're there for, until I have a very, very steady needle. All right, so that needle, we should be around the 7 and 8, going by experience with this thing. Now, obviously, when we turn the idle screw in, all right, air fuel mixture screw, it's going to start putting less or allowing less fuel stream into the manifold, which means it's going to start running leaner. Now, when we do that, engine RPM will raise, all right? But I thought I'd take this opportunity to show you the difference between getting it balanced from a needle perspective, running leaner, because obviously this engine is going to be very well tuned when you've got the most stable vacuum reading, okay? However, we can do that here with the engine in neutral, or the transmission in neutral. However, when we put in drive, we need more fuel, like I was saying previously, all right? So we can get this adjusted here perfectly, and it's going to be running sweet. The gauge needle is going to be very, very steady at whatever number it's going to be. But when we go into drive, I reckon we might have a stall condition. So then we've got to richen it up a little bit. Anyway, so I'm going to just prove that. I'm going to show you how this works, right? I'm going to put these in. We'll go one by one, all right? Well, this is a 4-corner, okay? So we'll go one by one to get this really, really stable. We'll put in drive and see what she does. All right, I'll be back. All right, engine started, quite erratic, which means that it's probably running a little bit too rich. So what we'll do is we'll lean the quarters in. We'll go a quarter of a turn clockwise, which means it's going to be a little bit less fuel on each corner of the fuel delivery on the carby. So let's do that. We will hear the RPMs increase. Alright, so quarter of a turn. I can hear that engine pick up a little bit already. So let's go to the secondary, quarter of a turn. RPM's rising, engine's much happier. Let's do the other side. Quarter of a turn. Quarter. Engine RPM is increasing again. Loves it. Now let's have a look at the vacuum reading, see if it's more stable. There we go. So what's that, 5, 6, 7, 8? It's pretty happy around the 8, much more stable. So let's go and put it into gear and see if she stays in there, because we might have gone a little bit too far now on the lean. So it might not be enough fuel delivery at idle when the torque converter is engaged. Alright, here we go. We'll put into drive, reverse, neutral, drive. Well, there we go. She conked out. So we are in a lean condition. So that proves to you, when you are tuning a carburetor coupled to an automatic transmission, you can't apply the steady vacuum gauge reading in neutral, because when you put in drive, it is under more load at idle again. Alright, so great for manual gearboxes, but not autos. So now what we'll do is we're going to back off. So we're going to richen back each corner point 90 degrees, because we went clockwise, so we're going to go anti-clockwise 90 degrees, put everything back to where it was, like that. Anti-clockwise, alright. So this is allowing more fuel back in. So we'll start her up, might take a little bit because the manifold will be quite dry now. We'll crank her up. Gonna have to squirt some fuel in there. There we go. Try again. Alright, she's alive. Okay, back to a good idle. A little bit erratic. Okay. Now I've gone back to its original dyno ports, position, sorry, on each of those corner screws. which was approximately 1 turn out from base setting. Alright, so 1 turn anti-clockwise. So at this point, let's put it in gear and see if the engine stalls this time. Here we go. New reverse neutral drive. There we go. Loves it. So the idle has not changed. Maybe 50 RPM, but nothing noticeable. Lumpy cam, so we're going to get a little bit of you know, bouncing there on the RPM, but the engine is alive. Okay, so by richening the idle circuit, it has kept it alive, and that's what we need for a bass tune. Now, if we find that it's running still a little bit rich by the nose, and it's not a high performance engine, what we can do there is we can advance the distributor and make the bass static setting maybe a couple of degrees advanced, because what happens is the fuel and the spark ignite at a certain time depending on what degrees this is set at. So let's say it's 8 degrees before top dead center, so the fuel is ignited before the piston gets to top dead center, and then it's still burning when the piston is after top dead center. All right, now if we have too much you know, retard as in before top dead center, then what basically happens is the fuel is igniting when the piston is still trying to come up and it's fighting it, and that's when you get what's called the old knocking noise, okay, because it's too much retarded. So basically, what should I say, advanced. All right, so what we're going to do is, if we have this setting now on 19 degrees, which is what performance or duration cams sort of like at a base setting, what we'll do there is we'll advance it to, let's say, 22, and we'll see if that cleans the burn more, or more of a clean burn of the fuel, okay, because at idle, high duration cams, there's not a clean sweep of the fuel on ignition, so you get that raw fuel smell coming out, okay. But if we ignite the fuel a little bit earlier, as in we give some advance on the distributor timing, then the fuel ignites a little bit earlier and you've got more chance of it having a complete combustion. So I'm going to advance it to 21 degrees because I know it's set at 19, and I'm going to see if it smells a little bit different and whether it's had any adverse effects on the engine performance. Alright, we'll be back. Alright guys, I've changed the base timing to 21 degrees at idle, and it is much steadier and it smells much better. It responds very well. So we'll see what it's like in gear. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. The engine RPM doesn't even drop when we put it into drive, so we got some stall converter load on that engine. So that's where we're at, guys. I'll take it for a drive, make sure we don't get any knocking or anything sinister going on there, because we don't want to put holes in pistons, but that's basically what we need to do. Okay, so remember, when tuning a Holly or any carburetor with an automatic transmission or something that's putting load on it, you need to make sure you adjust your idle circuit, the idle circuit on here, basically with it in gear, all right, with the load on the engine, okay? And it is absolutely imperative that you have one of these to see what's going on and give you a bit of a, you know, a bit of an idea of what that engine is doing, okay? So all in all, engine idle, the most vacuum possible, and a steady vacuum is a healthy point, okay? But don't be complacent with an automatic transmission, alright? You need to back that up a little bit with the richness, alright? Otherwise it will die. Alright guys, we'll go forward and see what else is going on with this thing. I've got to see where this, what the exhaust is doing, a bit of exhaust modification, because it's sort of like hanging around the back of the car, so we might have to change the angle of the tips. And I think we're good to go. We'll get on the road and see what she does, but I'm happy with the bass tuning. And yeah, it's as easy as that. Any questions, just PM me or put a little message there and I'm happy to answer your questions. Remember, keep it basic. It's not rocket science. I'm here to give you the basics and we're good to go. Righto, all. Cheerio.